Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter, New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneier, joined as always my co-host Nick Filato. Today we're here to break down what we observed and what we saw from the Giants film, the All-22 tape, of their loss to the New Orleans Saints in Week 14. Just like last week, it'll be a combined show. We'll talk offense, we'll talk defense, we'll talk key takeaways, things to go over. I'll start off here, though, Nick, from my takeaway, just watching this game on tape. Okay, let's frame it this way. If you're looking for something that Brian Daboll can bring to John Mara or anybody who's making these football decisions, be like, here's a tape-based example on why I should still be the coach of this team. I think this is actually good tape to bring to him. I was surprised to see so many open receivers and so many solutions that Daboll found, and just how horrible Drew Lock saw the field, man. Like, this was worse than DeVito. Anything I saw from DeVito at any point, worse from anything I saw from Daniel Jones. If this was the tape, if this was Jones, like if we transported Jones to here, this would be like a game where people would be killing him all over Twitter, like circulating all this film, and like we would be like killing him because we had expectations for him. He's a $40 million quarterback, obviously. Drew Lock is a $5 million backup, and it's like, yeah, maybe that time he spent with Seattle eventually like got used to the system and like figured something out and felt good within it, Nick. But like he is nowhere near where he needs to be in this system. And he was just late on so many throws, late to see things. Pre-snap reads that I just don't understand, like why he's going to one side of the field when he should be going to the other side of the field. No trust in Neighbors to win his routes, and Neighbors wins every damn route, it feels like. I mean, there are so few times he doesn't win Neighbors, and so many times he had won his route with so much space, and the ball just doesn't get there. I have in my notes Wandale winning a lot of routes that the ball didn't get there, and either Locke didn't see it early enough or didn't see it at all. Bellinger just open, winning all of the
time. All the time.
Not getting the ball. Like sometimes he got it, but not as often as he was open. More times than not, he was open and didn't get the ball, or it was late and it got batted. I mean, this was just one of the worst, I think this was the worst quarterback performance I saw this year, just considering how open these receivers were and how many solutions they found.
Yet he was still able to make some impressive plays in the second half. And look,
yeah,
I agree with everything you just said. This is not a surprise if you've watched Drew Lock since training camp. He's not patient. He bails all the time. He does not see which receiver is going to be open. If he's reading the middle hook linebackers, usually right when you hit that back foot in quick game, you see a linebacker step inside. You know, if it's a spacing concept, which the Giants do like to run, you know that outside guy is going to be open. And it just does not process for Drew Lock. It's like everything is coming too fast at this guy. And I know this sounds paradoxical, but I'll say this. The 0-8 start thing, I think that was wildly overblown, though. Even though Drew Lock was terrible in this game, and everything you said to open the show, I 100% agree with. I still believe Drew Lock in that 0-8 narrative, which it was a fact, was also kind of bullshit too, because Tyrone Tracy Jr. dropped the first pass of the game. Darius Slayton, that was a catchable throw. Wasn't the best throw, but that was a catchable pass up the sidelines. It would have been an explosive play by Drew Lock. Darius Slayton did not get that foot in bounds. I think Malik Neighbors would have gotten his foot in bounds. And then there was another drop by Wandale Robinson, I think, on the second drive. So yes, he started 0, and he had a completion that was called back because Josh Azudu was in an illegal formation. So it is kind of odd, though. I agree with you. Drew Lock, possibly worse than Tommy DeVito. Still, you could see that arm talent, though. That when
so different,
so different. So that's why I still think Drew Lock should start. But you just can't trust what's in between the ears. It's just not clicking for Lock in this offense with Brian Daboll. And it's frustrating because which is so odd. I had this stat I found from NFL Pro, I believe. And it was Lock finished 7 of 12 with 76 yards on quick passes. Which was a plus for the CPOE, which is completion percentage
late on all of them.
Yeah, but he's late on almost every single one.
Even the ones that are completed were late.
But the thing was, he was minus 20.7 on completion percent over expected on not quick game when he had dropbacks for more than 2.5 seconds. And that was really rough, but it's just because he's not seeing the field correctly. That's why, if you look at the advanced stats of Drew Lock, it does not look well, and he did not perform well in this game. Yet I still kind of came away saying, I think he's the best option right now that Daniel Jones is gone, just because of the arm talent that he has and how much better his arm talent is than Tommy DeVito. I don't know. Do you agree with that? Where are you at?
I think I agree with it. I'm just saying, at the very least, it's just like at least you're going to get an occasional fun throw. He made one to Wandell on a 4th and 10. He fit one into Neighbors late in the game. He finally trusted him to win that route on that intermediate hole shot, hit him. He was close on a ball that traveled 53 air yards. That I counted, Nick, to Slayton, just missed him. But man, that was cool. He flicked the wrist. Like that was just all wrist. Like that just shows kind of what he has different than a DeVito type. A few others that were interesting. I mean, the one where he's like rolling to his left and like has no base and gets the ball to Neighbors. That was kind of an impressive throw when you just consider that like it died, but like the fact that he even got there. So like, I don't think DeVito was that much faster at processing. He was better, but he wasn't that much faster. And to be fair, like to what you said, I agree with you on the 0-8 narrative not being something to focus on because I don't care about that, or going 0 for 8, 0 completion in the first 8. But it was just so many other things that bothered me, like how he didn't see the field and how open some of these receivers were, man. So many times, Neighbors, Wandale, and Bellinger over and over and over again. Slayton on one late in the game where he wins that inside release, and Slayton is just wide open. All he has to do is just throw him the ball. And it's like, the way I look at it, it's almost like, I feel like from my vantage point, and I don't know if this is what you would agree with, besides the Carolina game, I don't think I saw receivers as consistently open as I did in any other game this season than I saw in this one. And I would say that dates back all the way to probably 2020, the start of the Brian Daboll era here with the Giants, besides maybe that Washington game where they're just having miscommunications. I mean, the Saints played aggressively. Like they dared the Giants. They gave them a shit ton of space on the field side and just overall a crazy amount of space to work with. But, they made a good decision, a good gamble, because this guy doesn't see the field at all.
No, he does not see the field. It's just so funny that this positive stat of his with the completion percentage over expected. And then when you watch the tape, you're like, but that's not really what it was at all.
He was late on all the quick game.
Yeah. Like, how many times was Daniel Bell? There was like 2 or 3 throws where the quick game clicked for Drew.
And Bellinger's just standing here for 3 seconds.
Bellinger's standing there for like 3 and 4 seconds, just like
in the catch position. And it finally gets there. It's crazy.
And you can just tell, man, Neighbors is so done. He's so
But he's still running hard and winning all the routes.
I know. But there are times where I watch Malik Neighbors as the backside X in the second half, where he's like running this quick comeback or this quick curl, and he creates a separation, and he's open, and he's standing there, and he's flashing his hands, and Locke is rolling in the other direction. You just see him just stand like still, and then the defender who's standing right next to Neighbors is just like on his hip at this point, and they're both just standing there completely away from the play.
Yeah. Totally won a quick game where Neighbors is just opening quick game, and he's standing there. Locke doesn't see it. Locke eventually scrambles, breaks pocket, rolls to his side. Neighbors actually does the right thing and tries to, do a backyard play and roll toward the sideline and give him another target.
Yeah.
But then he like checks it down to Tracy, who drops it or something. It's just like there's no trust between Neighbors and Locke at all. And there are just so many opportunities for Locke to just literally do what we used to hate. Like, I'd rather him do the old Daniel Jones lock onto your receiver and just throw it a lot of these times to Neighbors. Like, I don't care. Keep your eyes over there. Lock on. Do whatever you need. Throw the ball to this guy. He wins his routes. Trust him to win these routes because he does over and over and over again. And it's really frustrating to see. There was one play that reminded me of the Eli Manning, Odell Beckham touchdown against the Dolphins from like 2015, where Neighbors kind of ran that inside release and then planted and went vertical, and he just torched the safety who took a step forward. But like by that point, I think Locke had broken the pocket. It wasn't good pass protection. Azudu fucked up. I mean, he sucks, and it's just a disaster at left tackle. And the pass protection wasn't good in this game, but like it just sucks, man, to watch these receivers open. But it begs the question, Nick, as we look forward, it begs an important question. Like, can we really evaluate Daboll when he has this kind of quarterback play? And whose fault is it that he has this kind of quarterback room? Is it his fault, or is it entirely Joe Schoen and John Mayer's fault for putting them in this position? Because I don't think Daboll picked these quarterbacks, and I don't think he picked this quarterback room. And we even heard him on Hard Knocks say he wanted Tyrod Taylor back, and they didn't get him Tyrod Taylor back.
Yeah.
So then you think about, can you fairly judge him with quarterbacks that he didn't pick? And then you think about this, and this is the big one for me, Nick. Would all these problems outside of the offense, let's say, because the offense has been terrible. I think they're averaging now 14.6 points per game, which is dead last in the NFL and 2 full points behind the second worst team at 31st. They also average it's 14.9. They average only 15.6 with Daniel Jones. They still would have been ranked dead last and at 1.5 behind the second worst team in the NFL. So putting the offensive issues aside, would all the issues with the locker room and this and that go away if he had good quarterback play, and then they were therefore winning games because these quarterbacks are really holding this team back all year long. It's like that's the cookie, that's the chicken and the egg. I don't know how to answer.
That is the chicken and the egg. It's difficult to really assess the situation, but when you're coaching a 2-win team and you took the offense, all the points we've already made, when you took the offense over and the offense is this historically bad now with 3 different quarterbacks and you're getting outscored astronomically. I calculated it was like 189 to like 105 or 103 through this 8-game losing streak that the Giants are currently on. And you have the locker room dysfunction. And there was locker room dysfunction last year. The way Daboll has treated the coordinators, you can read into that, if you will, with what happened with Wink Martindale last year and how he relegated Mike Kafka to a lesser position as an offensive coordinator. There's a lot to look into, but one thing is for certain, this losing is unacceptable. And can you sell to not only your fan base, but more importantly, your locker room? Hey, we're bringing Daboll back after this season. Will the locker room receive that? We heard Drew Lock after the game say this is one of the closest. I think he actually said this was the closest locker room he's ever been inside. And then a follow-up question was asked, are the players buying into what Brian Daboll is selling? And he said, I believe they are. Yes, I certainly am. And I believe they are. Drew Lock is he's always a great interview after the game. I think he does well in front of a microphone and dealing with the media, but I'm not sold that that's the case. And it's hard to make that case for Brian Daboll when every Sunday we come out here and it's, hey, there's four chances starting past midfield and the end result is 3 points. I get, man. Sure. Trust me. We say how much on this podcast, and quarterback is the most important position in sports. We understand that. But at this point, man, I don't know if it's just beneficial for the Giants to just turn the page and rip the Band-Aid off and maybe just go in another direction. But again, what's your options for that? And do you rip the tourniquet off and allow it to completely bleed out and get rid of the general manager as well? These are all questions and debates we're going to have over the next month or two.
And I certainly felt more strongly about it last night than I did today after watching the tape, just because I wasn't expecting to see that many open receivers. And then I talked with a few people who are fans of ours who were at the game after kind of posting some of these clips and talking a little bit about it. And they said like it was even crazier being live at the game and seeing it from that angle. Like there were guys open the entire game. So it's like, well, Daboll's job is to get these guys open. He can't throw the football on time. It's just not something he's able to do as a head coach. How much better would things be for Daboll? How much more intact would the locker room be? How much better, how much more friendly would the relationships with the coaches be and the coordinators be if they were just moving the offense on time and in rhythm in the passing game and therefore scoring more points and winning more games? But it's going to be a tough decision because there are also other guys who can scheme up offense in the NFL. He's not the only guy who can get wide receivers open.
Exactly. And it's certainly something, man, because you're right. There were more people open than I think I even realized watching it live. That's why I love going back to the all 22, especially in quick game, There was
the quick game was open all game.
I know, man. It was rough.
Crazy how bad the timing was. I just like, if it looked like that's the, do you go back to DeVito? Like it's like at least DeVito can get the ball out on time.
DeVito does operate quick game on time. DeVito has a quicker release. He operates quick game much better than Drew Lock. It's just some of the far hash throws that you see Drew Lock attempt, especially against the defensive structures that are being employed against the New York Giants right now, because there's no respect for these quarterbacks, especially given the leverage the defense is playing, just baiting or asking Drew Lock, hey, make this throw over the top, and Drew Lock won't do it. But then when he does, you see like, holy shit, the ball jumps out of his hand. It traveled all the way and it was actually solid ball placement. And that's why it's maddening with Drew Lock, because you see those traits, those tantalizing quarterback, those raw traits. It's just he can't put it all together, especially not in this offense.
Yeah, it's not happening, I don't think, this year for Lock, but it looks like he will continue to be the starter, at least per what Art Stapleton, I believe, tweeted earlier. Nick, I'm not sure if you saw that, but he's undergoing tests, Drew Lock, because he got hurt in this game. And if the tests are fine, I believe he will continue to be the starter. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's more fun, I guess, technically, to watch Drew Lock than DeVito. I don't think either of them are fun. I think they're both quarterbacks who should never be starting for the Giants. It's despicable to me that they still, they had 5-6 games, and it is what it is. Like, you can say, well, then you were the one pushing out Jones. Jones deserved to be benched too. Like, and with the injury guarantee, you can never even consider playing him. You don't play a guy who has had 2 season injuries, and then you could ruin your next year for what at 2-8. You obviously don't even consider it. But like, it's just like he at least was like a professional level high-end backup quarterback, Jones. And that is it. Like, I'll just say this, man, watching these guys, Locke, DeVito, like we've watched them, Nick, and Jones, it just shows you how much of a disparity there is in the NFL and how depleted quarterback play is around the league, dude. It's crazy. Like, the drop off from even what Jones gives you to what Locke and DeVito gives you is vast. And then the drop off from like what a Herbert or these good guys give you to what a Jones gives you is so vast. And it's just these massive cliff falls that you have. And in my mind, when you're falling this far from a cliff to get to the Jones, good end back, high end backup, which I think Jones is a high end backup, to the stars, the high end backup, to then whatever this DeVito Locke is. These falls that these depths that you're falling to are killing your chances to win. They're everything to your chances to win, almost, besides offensive line play and pass protection. And this is the case we've been making for years to our fans. We are really big believers that individual quarterback play does decide wins and losses to such a massive extent, which again can be used as a argument for keeping Daboll and I guess Shane.
It can be, yeah.
Not Shane, because he gave us this quarterback.
Yeah, I was going to say Shane is certainly guilty of this quarterback room more so than Brian Daboll. Now, we don't know what the conversations are, but it seems pretty obvious early on in training camp that Drew Lock was going to be dead weight for this Giants team and not challenge Daniel Jones whatsoever. I think there was one bogus report that came out of training camp that Drew Lock was going to push for the first job like early in training camp. Do you remember that?
I think it was because the GM, John Schneider. Are you talking about that comment that he made?
No, I think that was in mini camp, but regardless of the fact, it was pretty obvious, like he's not comfortable, as we've said a lot.
Yeah, you said that from watching him at camp, Nick.
Yeah, and you see it in this game, though. How many times does he drop back? He goes to his first read, and then he just starts running. He just starts running and bailing. And you know what? He could scoot a little bit, but then you have plays that just leave you just scratching your head, man. You're just creating so much dry, like your freaking head is just full of dandruff and dry skin. You're just scratching your head when he runs, and then he just tries to get the first down. But instead of going forward 2 yards, he tries to pivot around two defensive backs and gets tackled. And it's just.
And I'll say one thing about that play, Nick, because a Giants fan posted this on Twitter and it caught my attention. And I think it's a good take and I agree with it. There's a clip after that with Locke coming back to the sideline and Daboll being like, dude, what are you doing? You just have to go forward. And Locke sees Daboll saying that, turns his head immediately and keeps walking and walks toward the bench. And Daboll kind of throws his hands up. That is horrible. Like, I know Locke after the game then goes and says, we are buying into Daboll's message. It's a tight-knit locker room. But, like, I think a player is supposed to stand there and listen to the coach. I think you never see that with Andy Reid and Mahomes and, like, all these good combos. Like,
I think that is a good point, but I think Drew Lock knew that. And
still, they're paying the respect to not walk away from it.
Yeah, there's so many instances, and it is hard, man. Like when you're on a sideline, when a coach it's just in passing. The coach is doing something right now. It's just in passing, and the coach is just saying something, and then the guy just kind of still walks, and he knows, and he has to kind of like live with that. And you heard Locke out, and I'm not trying to shill for Drew Lock right now,
no, I know
at all. But you heard Locke after the game, like, dude, I had a shit ton of mistakes, especially it's like, yeah, you certainly did at this point. But no, I think your point. I think that point is well taken.
Just interesting, yeah. It's even if it's not Locke's fault that he walked away, it's not a great sign that the coach doesn't have that kind of respect. I don't think.
I'm not going to use it as an indictment on the respect of Brian Daboll. Right. I think there are other instances of that than passing like that. Like he's not going to like snap to parade rest. But I get it. Like maybe you want to listen, but those kind of interactions, I've seen that happen with well-respected coaches on the sideline too.
Yeah. It happened earlier with Rodgers and what's his name? Salah.
Rodgers is Rodgers.
No, I know. That's not a good example of that.
All right, let's get into some offensive plays before we go over the defense, which was pretty damn respectable, Dan. Yeah. I had fun watching the defense. But yeah, so this first one, this is the 3rd and 15. We have deep curls. Drew Lock is going to scramble. You can just kind of see he's jittery in the pocket. He's trying to move around, create a throwing window. Look at the bottom of the screen, man. Malik Neighbors is wide open.
Just trust it. Just trust it, man.
Throw that football to Mario Davis. Amazing linebacker, mind you, but that's plenty of space.
And he actually has the arm talent to trust it.
I know. And he just took his eyes off of it and then scrambled. And he ends up picking this up, but it's still one of those instances, in my opinion, where you have Malik Neighbors open, man. Fire the football, let it rip, trust your eyes, trust your arm talent, and he just doesn't,
Yeah. Throw it before he gets out of the break. Just use some anticipation.
Yeah, which you saw Derek Carr do a lot in this game.
I know. Derek Carr actually throws more anticipation than anyone realizes, I think, because he's bad at a lot of other things, whatever with him. But, like, he is I find him to be a better quarterback than people realize, personally.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't even look at, and I agree with Malik Neighbors. And he had 2 targets in the first half. Like, get this guy the freaking football, man.
Especially because he's winning routes. Like, this is like there are way more egregious examples even than this one of Neighbors being open.
I agree. And then this next play is interesting. We're going to have a festive dumpster fire. In honor of the aerial advertisement that we saw.
Why is it fest? Oh, with the Christmas.
Yeah,
lights.
you got the
Where'd you
Christmas
find this thing,
lights.
Nick?
Do
This is
not
wild.
play on or around the dumpster fire. Unfortunately, we have to watch this dumpster fire. And then the next play we're going to go over is a 4th and 8. Brian Daboll ended up going for it on 4th and 8, and the dumpster fire is still persisting. Oh, there we go. All right, 4th and 8. Look at the leverage from the cornerbacks on the outside. You have the ball on the left hash. You're going to have number 1 against number 1, Alontae Taylor against Malik Neighbors. He is going to be playing inside leverage to the far hash, and then you see inside leverage to that near hash on the top of the screen if you're watching on YouTube. And you can see the only thing that really comes open is top of the screen on the dig. The safety is there, though, kind of bracketing on top, just keeping everything in front of him. And then Malik Neighbors tries to find a soft spot, but he's getting cloud covered. There's really nothing against this man coverage defense. And then Drew Lock just rolls out and ends up throwing it, and the Giants take a holding penalty that's declined. And it's just kind of like a bad 4th and 8 decision. I understand. I think this would have been a 56, if I'm not 56-yard field goal from Graham Gano. The Giants just didn't trust it, especially not in MetLife.
Yeah. I think this wasn't a good example of the opposite of what you've been saying all pod. This was not a good example of, receivers open, but there were so many more examples where they were.
I agree. A lot of the receivers that were open, it was zone. There was a lot of zone coverage
from
the Saints. And this is a good play by the Saints, man.
What does beating zone require? Timing and anticipation.
Timing, anticipation, rhythm. And you can see, man, they bail 2 guys off the line of scrimmage at their crowded line of scrimmage. You have Demario Davis wall off Daniel Bellinger coming across the middle of the field. Daniel Bellinger attempts to cut it. Doesn't really create too much separation on that play. Wandale gets blanketed as well. Look, I thought Wandale ran a lot of good routes in this game, and this is just a really exceptional play by I don't know exactly who that is, but the underneath defender of the New Orleans Saints.
Wandale did run a lot of really good routes in this game.
He was open too, but he had, I think, 2 drops, 1 drop for sure. So that's rough. And then here's a 1st and 10. Got Bellinger wide open, and Locke he's late. He ends up completing it. We're like, watch. That's 5-6 yards of separation.
Has to be out there at that latest.
Ball out. Look, because again, like we've said, man, a lot of these teams, they're playing Wandale aggressively. You have 2 guys bump over to handle the flat route, and then Wandale Robinson and Daniel Bellinger goes right into the void with separation. And Locke I don't know what he's doing here, man.
It's hard to say.
This one doesn't get completed. This one gets knocked down at the line of scrimmage.
And I felt like one thing that I'm curious to get your take on from watching this tape and just getting to see an extended look of this player. I think Daniel Bellinger does a really good job of finding the soft spot in his zone and understanding when to throttle down and settle into those soft spots.
He's always had that, dude. Like Daniel
Bellinger,
a
really nuanced thing, and that's something that like you cannot know unless you watch the tape, because a lot of times the ball doesn't come his way, but that's still him being an asset to your offense.
I 100% agree. Here, this is the I think we skipped ahead a little bit, or no, we went back to the 3rd and 15. Let's move along. There's the dumpster fire. All right.
Yeah.
All right, here's the Daniel Bellinger play that we just watched. You're right, though, on Daniel Bellinger. And I know people will be like, oh, well, you guys just say that because you have him on his podcast. Like, no, this is just subjective. Watching the film, the guy understands how to uncover versus zone coverage
really well.
And he's still a physical blocker, and he brings all that to the table.
And he doesn't drop passes. I mean, this is a valuable asset that they've just put to the side for some reason this season.
I understand the upside of Theo Johnson. Like, don't get me wrong.
Play them both then more. Like,
yeah. And I understand that with Chris Manhurst, he's just getting phased out because the Giants see something else in Theo. But I think Daniel Bellinger, like, if he's your 3rd tight end, you got a freaking excellent tight end room.
Yeah.
It's just they don't have that superstar like a Darren Waller type, which they had last year. And look again, though, on this play. You're going to have Daniel Bellinger. This is kind of what we're talking about. He's streaking up the seam. Splits the 2 high safety or 3, because that safety, the middle of the field closed safety, ends up sinking down on the dig route from Wandale Robinson.
And so many options here.
You look at the top of the screen, Daniel Bellinger has leverage against the deep 3rd defender, and he's angling it inward towards the hash. And Drew Lock, he can hit Wandale Robinson on this play too, because Wandale Robinson has about 12 yards of separation on that safety who's biting down. So you have 2 deep options, intermediate to deep options for Drew Lock, and Drew Lock doesn't pull the trigger on either. Instead, he rolls out and tries to extend a play and find Jalen Hyatt down the field, and it goes incomplete.
That's exactly. These are some of the plays exactly what we've been talking about earlier this podcast. And it makes it really frustrating. And also a good example. Look, a 3rd and 6 solution by Daboll, and he has 2 solutions here. You can go to Bellinger or Wandale if you have the timing right. But I don't really know what Locke is like, how Locke processes this offense, but it's just not good.
This episode is brought to you by Skims. Get your hands on the best underwear in the land. Look, I'm sure, gentlemen, you're a lot like me. You don't want your fit to be too compact, nor do you want to be swinging around like you're trying to destroy a piñata. You want everything in place. Comfort on a cloud with no ride-up. That is the ideal situation, and Skims provides that situation for us, gentlemen. They sent me a few pairs. I wear them to work. I wear them while I'm working out, and they are exactly what I'm looking for in my underwear. And Christmas is right around the corner. So grab a pair of Skims for someone in your life. Maybe that someone is you, and you want that comfortable underwear for your whole situation down there. So shop Skims Men's at skims.com. That's skims.com. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show, Big Blue Banter, in the drop-down menu that follows. And if you're looking for the perfect gifts for the whole family, Skims just launched their biggest holiday shop ever. So visit skims.com to check that out and maximize your draw's comfortability.
Hey everyone, this episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. Every man knows the unbeatable feeling of a fresh barbershop shave. Now, what if I told you that you no longer have to wait weeks or even months between appointments to experience it? Introducing Manscaped's newest innovation, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver, the game-changing tool that brings the luxury of professional shave right into your home. Whether you're after that daily silky smooth finish or prefer to maintain a rugged 5 o'clock shadow, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver is your go-to for precision and style every time. Head over to manscaped.com and join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using code BIGBLUE for 20% off. Gentlemen, this has changed the grooming game for me, and I highly recommend it for you. Get the Chairman Pro today and experience a shave that is as smooth as you deserve. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code BIGBLUE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code BIGBLUE at manscaped.com.
Looks like Locke is attempting to read the flat and then the quick hitch by Jalen Hyatt. You have 4 defenders, really, if you include Demario Davis in that area. But then just keep your eyes down the field or the backside dig that you're looking at.
Right.
It's just,
I thought he'd come back to the backside dig because he opens left, and then I thought when he comes back, it's boom, hit Wandale on the backside dig, and that requires anticipation. But he doesn't really.
He flips his hips right there, and
I thought he'd fire right there and hit Wandale because he missed Bellinger. Like, that's obvious. He wasn't going to see that, and that was the best way to go with it. But at least find the backside dig to Wandale.
Here again, you're going to see him late to this.
Another example of it.
You have Daniel Bellinger sit. It's not a 3rd and 6, I don't believe. Daniel Bellinger's open. He's flowing away. Just to your point of what you brought up just like 5 minutes ago, Dan. Look, Daniel Bellinger feels the leverage out, understands that he has a defender to his inside that's not being drawn away by Malik Neighbors because you have a bunch of middle hook defenders from the Saints. So he flows outside towards the numbers to give him a little bit more breathing room. Smart play. Ends up getting the completion, but how long was he open for?
Right. We don't want this. Like, the end result is not what we're talking about. We need the process to be. This is like, reminds me of all those times where we're like, but what are you criticizing this play for? He ended up running for it, and he got a first down. Remember back in the day over the last 6 years? It's like, no, we want the offense to work on time and in rhythm. We don't want some end result occasionally that you can't repeat to work out.
Exactly. Yeah. It's annoying.
It is very annoying. I hate this fucking pass offense.
Oh,
I just hate him.
I hate him. All right,
I hate that we are watching this. Is like, what? Here's another one.
No, this is
this is when he finally hit Neighbors on the whole shot. Okay.
Yeah, this is a 1st and 20, and this is one of Locke's best throws because he hits Malik Neighbors on a dig route. He gets that underneath.
Finally.
Yeah, and this is well timed. The underneath defender gets drawn away from the number 2, Darius Slayton's pivot. Opens the window. Neighbors creates the separation. Demario Davis is towards the other side of the field. Locke lets it rip. Neighbors catches it and has the ability to create yards after the catch.
Yeah, despite not much space because everybody's eyes are always on Neighbors. But I love how tight Neighbors runs this route.
Good play. This is good by Locke. Now Locke burps a baby like 3 times on some of these plays.
He burps a baby a lot. Watching the tape, I was surprised. I didn't know he was that big of a baby burper. It kills his timing.
Yeah, he's just feeling it out. And here
And
you
just explain, by the way, Nick, for those who may not know.
Yeah, it's just you pat the football before you throw. Like you're waiting and you're just patting the football.
And it can mess with the timing of the throw.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's something that Jones had his whole career as well with the Giants.
A lot of quarterbacks do if they're not completely decisive. This is the third and we just went over that. And sorry everybody on YouTube. This thing is skipping around on me a little bit. Here we go. The neighbors dig. It's one of the best throws. There were a couple others in the fourth quarter that Drew Lock attempted. This was the first play of the fourth quarter. The next play we're going to go over is the 2nd and 6, 7:17 left. Throw to Darius Slayton. I felt like this was another well-timed play by Drew Lock and ended up being completed to Slayton. Makes a really good contested catch. Wins on the outside, cuts back. Great route by Darius.
You can see Bellinger open too, by the way. It was fine. Like the timing is fine. He wins this curl. But
this is a good play by Lock. Hits that back foot and he fires. And this is throwing with anticipation by Drew Lock. Because look, you still have Darius Slayton selling a vertical stem here by the time Lock fires his football. Darius Slayton is just sinking his hips to come back. And then right when he does it so smoothly, Darius Slayton, that the football is basically right in his hands as he turns and lifts. That's a very well-timed and well-executed play by Lock and Darius Slayton. It ends up going for a first down on 2nd and 6. And Lock did this too with Josh Azudu getting bullied by Chase Young. I think Josh Azudu gave up 9 pressures to Chase Young in this game.
Terrible on tape to me.
Yeah, I mean,
I hate to say
I thought it could be worse too, which is like sad. I did think it could be worse.
I don't know what they're doing with this kid. Like, I don't know how they can continue to try him at tackle, to give him a shot at guard just to save his career with the team at least. It's just not. He's not an offensive tackle at the NFL level.
It says something that all of our offensive guards next year are going to be. It's going to be John Runyon and a bunch of offensive tackle castaways.
Probably, yeah. Which is crazy.
It sucks, man. 4th and 10, 5:12 left. Drew Lock again flows in the pocket, steps up, gets hit, and ends up finding Wan'Dale Robinson. This is another really good route by Wan'Dale Robinson to uncover here. Goes to the inside at the top of your screen, bottom of the numbers. Leans back outward. You can see the torso lean, the head lean, the shoulder lean, break back to the middle of the field, come back, run back through the football, make the catch. It's a good play by Wan'Dale.
Yeah, extending away from his frame, high pointing a ball.
Exactly. As Zudu gets bullied by Chase Young again, flushes Drew Lock towards Evan Neal. And we'll talk about the offensive line here in a little bit. It's just another good throw by Lock to Neighbors from the far hash. Neighbors goes and makes a contested catch, back shoulder, works back through the defender. Very good play.
With all that I said earlier, Nick, it does feel like Lock started trusting Neighbors more late in the game.
No, I agree. And that's, again, this is why it sucks. Because, again, I'm not advocating for Drew Lock. It's just he makes plays like this, and Tommy DeVito
doesn't.
And then there's throws like this on 3rd and 7, where Lock is this is an insane throw by Drew Lock. Drew Lock does not step into this at all. Drew Lock is about to get just absolutely killed by Brian Brzee and Chase Young because Josh Azudu is his left tackle, and falling back, he just throws it with his wrist and it snaps all the way towards the sideline and gets to the target. Where Darius Slayton comes down with it on a 3rd and 7. That's an insane throw. This is insane arm talent by Drew Lock. It's just all the issues that Drew Lock had. Look, he's
crazy throw.
His feet are not set at all. Yeah. He's falling backwards. It's everything that you don't want him to do, and it's not his fault. Chase Young is inches from hitting him. And that ball is right where it needs to be. That's an elite pass by Drew Lock. And that's the upside of Drew Lock. But he's, again.
Which is why I'd still rather keep him over DeVito. It's still more fun to watch. And neither of them are going to win games, I don't think.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I want to talk about the offensive line before we switch to the defense. Because, yes, Josh Azudu was not great in this game. The Giants tried to do everything to keep Chris Manhertz and Bellinger or Singletary and Tyrone Tracy Jr. in the vicinity of both of the tackles. I didn't feel like the offensive line was probably as bad as I initially thought just off the broadcast. It wasn't good either. But Evan Neal, I don't think he had a good game per se, but so much better than Josh Azudu.
So much better than Josh Azudu. I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to talk about that. And I think you nailed it. It was so much better than Josh Azudu. And it's better than what he'd been putting on tape lately.
Yes. I still see those athletic limitations. We saw a ton of vertical.
He's still not going to be their guy at tackle, unfortunately.
Yeah, a lot of vertical sets though from him, right? He was getting into his vertical set, trying to stay square, and then just making contact. And you saw some exceptional run blocking. Now the Giants didn't run a lot of duo in this game. I think they only ran like 2. And one of the duo runs, I think it was with Tyrone Tracy Jr. GVR and Evan Neal drove Nathan Shepard about 10 yards off the line of scrimmage. The running game, look, the Giants couldn't get anything going on the ground other than Drew Lock, which sucks. And the package they had with Tommy DeVito, the split back package, which, that's was one play and it did not go for anything at all. It was pretty rough, but it was just a lot of inside zone in this game, a lot of stretch zone.
Yeah.
Not as much duo, 1 GH counter run. So they really couldn't get anything going, unfortunately.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the defense, Nick. I know you have a cut up of Micah McFadden, some of the plays that he made. One of his best games of the season, maybe one of the best games of his career.
Insane.
Yeah.
That was everywhere, dude.
Stepping in a new role, too, in that Okereke role, which is intriguing to me. What did you make of, I guess, Micah McFadden? We'll start with him on the defense.
I thought Micah McFadden was exceptional in this game. I'm going to use that word again because he was freaking everywhere, dude. And he was handling, like you said, the Bobby Okereke role. And just some of the far side plays that he executed on were very impressive, where Darius Muasau was, we could probably see some of them here. Darius Muasau, this is a great play to exactly what I was talking about. This is going to be a weak side run by the Saints, I formation. You're going to see Darius Muasau get over. He's going to get taken out by the fullback, and then you're going to have Micah McFadden assist and be that pursuit defender to take down Kendry Miller for a loss. And there were 5 tackles for a loss, 6 stops from Micah McFadden in this game. This was, I think, the best I've seen this young man play, and he's really developing into an asset for this defense, and that's great because I don't know how long Bobby Okereke is going to be here. Now we have 2 more years of Micah McFadden under contract, or next year is his last year because you had 2022, 2023 this year, so next year will be his last. But this is a player that I would like to retain depending on cost and all that.
Same.
And who the defensive coordinator is and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think, but he's kind of proven now he can be an asset with multiple coordinators. With
I'm not suggesting that he can't. I'm saying just because some defensive coordinators like their own personnel and all that kind of stuff. For
sure, and he's not going to be a match for every coordinator. But I'm with you. I think he's an asset for this team. I think he's one of the better 5th round picks they've had in that Slayton range, similar kind of production. I think, but maybe even more. You could argue maybe even more. Still, the missed tackles are somewhat of an issue for him. They might always be, like we've talked about before. It might be a physical issue rather than, a mental or a technique issue. But overall, he's an asset for this defense, and he played a phenomenal game. I thought he was the best player that I saw on tape.
Yes. No, I'm right there with you. And we'll talk about the scheme for a second, but I want to highlight this one play by Trey Hawkins III, another player who was impressive in this game. Not just because of the interception, which was a good play, but plays like this. You're going to see Juwan Johnson trying to get out and make this. You barely see it, but all the way to the left side of the screen. Watch Juwan Johnson go into block, and you're going to see the judo move right there by Trey Hawkins III. Just dip the inside shoulder, present the small of your back, get away from the blocking attempt, present your numbers to the running back. And that's exactly what he does. Squares up, makes a nice physical hit to help Micah McFadden with the tackle. And Trey Hawkins had 3 or 4 plays similar to that. That one was probably the most impressive just because he was able to completely avoid the block. But I came away very happy with both of those young players. And dude, the Giants first off, do you have anything on Trey Hawkins III?
Not much more to add. I mean, look, he's somebody hopefully that can be a help for them. Obviously, this is his first extended chance, but I'm not too high on him long term personally.
Yeah, no, I get that, but still, it was a good.
He played well. Yeah, I mean, good for him. He played well,
and I felt like Kayvon Thibodeau was another player who had a good game. And I
want to ask you about Kayvon.
Okay,
I agree with you that he had good moments in this game. I also thought there were moments like obvious passing downs where he just didn't win his rep. And we're facing.
I think that's who Kayvon Thibodeau is.
And I know what you're going to say. I know you're going to say I think that's who Kayvon is, and I agree with you. But this is not exactly a good pair of tackles that he's facing. It's probably one of the worst in the NFL. And the amount of reps he lost on those obvious passing downs against these tackles, it's just not like him playing pretty good at times. It's just they needed more. They need more from this dude, especially with the way that he carries himself and his belief in himself and just kind of how he, approaches the game, in my opinion.
I agree. These are all points that we've made on this podcast, but there's really hasn't been anything throughout his career that would suggest he's that player other than the fumble against Lamar Jackson in his rookie season
and the Washington
game. And I would say the Jets game possibly, but if you look, the Washington game, I think he was unblocked, or maybe he beat Cornelius Lucas. The Jets game, he was going up against like Mekhi Becton. So that he's never been somebody who's like, oh, I'm going to beat Lane Johnson on a 3rd and 6.
Right.
There's never been that moment for Kayvon Thibodeau. And I agree, he carries himself like he's a top at his position, but I haven't seen anything like that. I'm just happy that he's a serviceable starter. I would say a slightly above average starter. Like I think that's a win for the Giants, but that's a massive loss. But that's just how
sad. That's another example of not you, but just like how how low we've set the bar.
Of course, a lot of other teams would be very disappointed with the 5th overall pick being Kayvon Thibodeau and what he's provided the New York Giants. But he's still, like I would say, an above average starter, which is good. But you can get that in the 3rd round. You know, like you can get that later in the draft. You don't need to spend a top 5 pick on a player like that. So I would like to see more from him. But I still think he played well in this game. I thought this was one of his better games.
Yeah, and I think you're showing these Trey Hawkins clip. I'm just watching back through him. It's a good example of like what he can offer the Giants. He's a physical player who can come downhill and help. What I said before, and I'll stand by it. It's just I don't know if I can ever trust him as somebody you can leave on an island in coverage. And if that's not what you can do at the NFL level, I don't really have too much long-term hope personally.
Yeah, well, did the Giants have anybody like that?
No.
Banks. I mean, I thought Adoree had a good game.
Yeah, I know. Adoree looked good.
Adoree, this is the second game in a row where Adoree Jackson was like, oh crap, he's actually making plays out here, coming away with PBUs and
in phase. Yep.
Now he's going up against the
Good point.
Formidable foe of Marquez Valdez.
Marquez
Valdez-Scantling. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at right now. But the Giants, look, they sold out to stop the run aggressively in this game. They were in tight 5-man fronts, like their base defense, 3-4 fronts on like 58% of their snaps or something like just crazy, something that we have not seen yet from them. They had 7 or 8 men in the box consistently. Whenever they were in cover 3, they would rotate Jason Pinnock or Tyler Nubin down into the box, and that would be that extra defender. They were always attempting to give themselves the mathematical advantage against heavy Saints personnel. The Saints were in 12, they were in 21. So I thought it was a creative and unique game plan that resembled something similar to the fronts, at least, of Wink Martindale, because we saw those tight fronts from Wink Martindale all the time. And the Giants were working with Elijah Garcia, Corey Durden. You're talking about players that, frankly, I don't think a lot of Giant fans even knew they were on the roster.
Yeah.
And they were respectable. Like I thought Elijah Chapman had a good game here, just even absorbing blocks and being just difficult to frame up for the interior offensive line of the Saints. And the linebackers were dialed in anytime it was a run. They were aggressively flowing towards the play side and fitting their run and attempting to be disciplined. Thought Brian Burns had a good game as well. And that's one of the reasons why in the middle of the game, Derek Carr and the Saints were able to work certain play action passing misdirection plays because the Giants were so aggressive and so scared to get run all over. But damn, Giants defense, they shut the run down for what seemingly, or at least what seemed like the first time this season.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch. Like you said, it was an aggressive game plan, and it worked, and it was smart against a team that has this receivers left, the pass protection of a Saints team, right? Like those are the things that you get to normally face when you're like the game plan you can normally call when you're an opposing defensive coordinator facing the Giants. But now you got to call it as the Giants. I wonder if they could. I wonder how this translates. Like I think Lamar Jackson, you can't call this kind of game plan against.
No. This was a game plan
real ugly next week, by the way.
Yeah, the Saints went into it like, well, we're going to be run heavy. Like, they want to throw the ball everywhere. The Giants went into it like, we have no respect for their pass catchers, like at all. So we're going to stop the run. We're going to force their pass catchers to beat us. And I mean, the Saints didn't really do this. Isn't a referendum on Carr. I thought Carr was fine in this game for what he is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it really just took a blown coverage by I'm guessing here. I'm assuming that it was Jason Pinnock when the Saints went to empty. Because the Saints would employ 12 personnel. Giants were all 3-4, and then the Saints would go into empty and be like, all right, match this. And the Giants were like, all right, we could trust ourselves to match this. But there were certain miscommunications when that happened. And in the red zone, there was a miscommunication where Darius Muasau was blitzing. So Pinnock was telling McFadden to get over to the strong side to cover Foster Morrow. And then nobody assumed the responsibility of Juwan Johnson. And that's why Juwan Johnson was wide open. And just judging by that entire sequence, it seemed like it was probably Jason Pinnock's assignment after he was moving Micah McFadden to take Juwan Johnson. Ends up leading to that touchdown. I like Pinnock. I like the upside of Pinnock, but there are just little things like that. Him as an alley outlet defender coming
Yeah.
downhill. He's a little bit wild. I think he should be a better tackler for a guy of his build. So the
True.
little things like that about him are a little annoying. It's probably the best way to phrase it. But what was I going to say? I was going to say something else about the personnel. You saw some big nickel, big dime, which basically big dime was Belton and Simmons on the field at the same time. And then Simmons was in that big nickel package. But this was a lot of beef. This was a beefy game plan by the New York Giants. And it was successful. I mean, they held the Saints to 14 points, right?
Yeah.
Like this is a massive win for this defense, this beat up defensive unit.
Right.
Playing their hearts out too, man. Like all of them, they were out there running around
hard.
crazy. They played very hard. There was no Deontay Banks out there. So they played, no, that's a little shot at Deontay Banks, but they were playing for their coach, and that could be another reason why people would be like, oh, well, Brian Daboll should stay because the defense didn't quit on him. Now, there's going to be a lot of this kind of conversing over the next 4 weeks on reasons why Daboll should stay, and their effort, at least the defensive effort, was one that would indicate that he had not quit on the coach.
Sure, I think you're right about that. And anything else from a film standpoint that you wanted to touch on?
I'm a little upset, and I'm not really shocked, but Darius Muasau got beat to the sideline how many times in this game, dude?
Yeah.
And is it poor angles, or is this a athletic issue? Now, I'll say this: back in 2022. Micah McFadden found himself in a similar situation often throughout his rookie season. And let's not forget, this coaching staff, this regime, benched Micah McFadden for Jared Davis, who they claimed off of the Detroit Lions practice squad. So maybe that's something that can improve, right? He can become a little bit more explosive, but it did seem like every time Kendry Miller or Alvin Kamara got an edge, Darius Muasau took a shallow angle and dove at their feet and missed, basically. Forced them wide, but still missed. And that's just not acceptable.
Yeah, and we'll have to see it because it is a good point that McFadden, once he got more in tune and like played faster and, from a mental standpoint, was able to kind of take those better angles. We'll see how it goes there on that front. But yeah, anyway, for everybody, thank you so much for tuning into this. Please do us a favor, hit the like button. Please comment as well. I want a like and a comment out of everybody who hears this right now. That'll help us grow the page and get more content coming your way. We want a good draft season. We want a good draft season. Well, you need to help us grow the show. We don't want to go backwards. So all you have to do that is hit like and comment. Otherwise, have a great rest of your night or week or weekend, whenever you listen to this. And we'll talk to you soon.